This video will provide a very brief overview of guidance rubrics. Two key points will be discussed: rubrics, what they are, how they work, very briefly, and a brief review of the various features. The main goal of guidance rubrics is to automatically grade and give hints in Canvas quizzes. Here's a picture of a Canvas quiz. We have the quiz question here and the region for the student's answer. Then guidance rubrics will use AI to automatically generate a grade and automatically give a hint to the student. To understand how we give grades in guidance rubrics, we have to understand how we build rubrics. Rubrics have two main aspects: rubric components and rubric elements. Again, there are several videos that describe rubrics. This is going to be a very brief overview of how rubrics work. Consider the question: explain the significance of the Louisiana Purchase in American history and its impact on the expansion of the United States. A correct answer to this question would touch on these 6 points. We call these points components. Consider this first component here, economic growth, which focuses on agricultural potential, helps spur economic growth and development. To evaluate whether this point has been addressed, we build a Boolean expression. We have an AND here and an OR here. The AND means that this point must be addressed, and this point, this OR here, means that this point is addressed if either one of these is addressed. So to get credit for this component, the student's answer must address this point and either of these. Full credit for the question is received if all components are correctly addressed. And as was mentioned, this question has 6 rubric components, one of which is here and is defined by 3 rubric elements. The user interface provides a method to define rubric components and the rubric elements. Here we see an example for a particular question and quiz in Canvas, and we see that it has 2 components. Drilling down into a component, we see that this component has an OR and then 2 rubric elements. This component down here also has an OR and 2 rubric elements. As mentioned, there is another video which goes into detail about how to build rubrics. However, a complete solution for using AI to grade and give hints requires more than rubric editor and evaluation. For example, our system has a range of other features. The first feature allows us to examine how the AI is performing against the student submissions. Here we see a part of the UI. We're reviewing all submissions for a particular quiz and a particular question. Here's the rubric, and we see the list of students. By the way, these student names are fake student names for this demo. And we see the student submission, and here's the rubric, the executed rubric. We can drill down into the rubric to see exactly how the grading performed. This is an OR with 2 rubric elements. Since the first rubric element was graded as correct, there was no need to evaluate the second rubric element. Drilling down into this first element, we can see exactly the messages sent to the AI. Here's the system message, here's the user message, here's the reply from the AI, a response from our system back to the AI, another response, and finally the response from the AI. A more detailed look at evaluating student submissions and the performance of AI is given in other videos. The system also includes a convenient way to create and test submissions. This is useful for just trying out the system. However, Canvas access is required. Here's the user interface for doing that. We see that we have a quiz here and a question. And there's 2 ways to create a submission. One is you can paste the submission here, or we can use ChatGPT to generate submissions. Pasting submissions is useful if you've given this question in a previous course but didn't use the autograder. So then you can take student submissions and paste them here. And down below you can see the list of the submissions that you've created, and you can scroll and edit and delete those. Then going to student submissions and clicking on the test manually created submissions for a particular quiz and question. We see the submissions here, and we can see some rubric elements. And we can adjust these rubric elements and we can test them. This allows us a playground to explore the performance of different rubric elements. This workflow is also described in a separate video. It's important that the students have a way to alert you if they believe that the AI grading is incorrect. The way we handle this is in the comments to the students, we include the text that if they believe that the grade is incorrect, they should resubmit their answer, but include the text, manual review requested. The user interface provides a workflow that allows you to examine the submissions where students have requested manual review. Here we see quiz and the question, and for a particular student, again this is a demo name, and this is the attempt where the student requested a manual review. Here is their submission, and we see the text manual review is requested. We can drill down, see exactly what happened in the rubric, and finally we can put some comments here. So the full comment would look like this, with a section with manual comment, and then the remaining section of the AI generated comment. If we think that this comment is correct, then we can submit this. The system includes several administrative features. For example, if you have graders and TAs and other co-instructors, you can give them access to the system. That allows them to evaluate the performance of rubrics, respond to manual request reviews. Also, you can import metrics from previous semesters, and you can manage which questions are to be auto-graded and which ones not. There are several advanced features. For example, you're able to label student submissions. That is, for each rubric element and rubric component, you can label whether the student should have received credit for it. You can compare rubrics. If you have two versions of a rubric, you can compare them and see how they're performing against your labeling. You can also build your own LLMs. You can take existing LLMs from OpenAI, fine-tune them according to your labeling, and then use those LLMs in your grading. Again, there's many videos that describe each of these features in detail.